Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. In today's video I'm going to start off my update 1.38 car reviews, starting off with my personal favourite of the bunch, the RCR Garage Civic. Now this actually brings to an end the Gran Turismo SEMA Award winners, which ran from 2003 all the way up to 2018, and every single car that has won the award has featured in some form or another in a Gran Turismo game at some point, and this is the final one of the bunch, the 2017 winner. Now in terms of Gran Turismo 7 though, we actually now have all of the cars that won the award from 2012 all the way through to 2018 when it finished off. We have the likes of the Mac 40, Chevy Nova, we also have things like the Fugu Z and the Roadster Shop Rampage, as well as something like the classic Wicked Fabrication GT51. They're all insane custom one-off cars, and in my opinion they are some of the coolest cars to actually feature in Gran Turismo just because of how one-off they actually are. Now in terms of their price point, they're all averagely priced at 300,000 credits, so they're not that expensive, and there is some amazing combinations as well as some amazing sights and sounds to see with this one. So it's almost like the end of an era with the release of this one here, the Garage RCR Civic. Now, as usual, like I mentioned, it's the 300,000 credit price point. This is standard for the SEMA winners. It doesn't say it's displacement, but I believe this thing does run a K24 Honda engine. Drivetrain is FF, 389 brake horsepower, weighing just over 1,000 kilograms, as well as being turbocharged. It's an absolute FF rocket ship. So as we get into this video, I do want to give a massive thank you to the guys at RCR Garage. I actually reached out to them to get as much information as possible on this build, and they kindly obliged, sending me in all the right places to get every little bit of information that I needed on the RCR Garage Civic. For me, this is the most exciting SEMA Award winner of the bunch. It's a long time coming. Obviously it won the award in 2017 and people never actually thought it would come to the game. There was rumours swelling around that, you know, the Pandem body kit, Gran Turismo and Polyphony couldn't get the license for it, so it will just never ever happen. And then out of the blue appears the RCR Garage Civic in those silhouettes, and it is great to see. It's my personal favourite of all the generations of Honda Civics. There's just something about the EG shape and styling that for me just stands the test of time. So let's talk about the RCR Garage Civic. I managed to reach out to the RCR Garage guys. This is a pairing of a father and son, Phil and Jesse. They've been basically building cars for many years. They're essentially car enthusiasts through and through. You know, it runs in the family, it runs in the blood, and it's always great to see enthusiasts putting all that kind of, you know, imagination to work with some absolutely amazing cars. So no, the RCR Garage Civic isn't the only one they run, but it's certainly now at least the most recognizable of the bunch. Now we can't talk about the car itself without talking about the father and son who have built some absolutely amazing machines along the way. Now the father, Philip, he grew up obviously around cool cars, and well, his first car himself was a 65 Ford Mustang. Now obviously this then rubs off. He went into the military life. He ended up basically being sent out to Okinawa in Japan, and well, in the early 90s with his son in tow, this is where everything kind of took off. So Jesse, the son of the pairing, was a bit of a rebel and ended up having to have some homeschooling in the form of the garages and streets of Okinawa. And well, this being the mid-90s in Japan, street drifting was absolutely the in thing. Now obviously this is going to send anyone with a bit of a passion for cars absolutely through the roof and insanely interested. Now Jesse now owns the, I believe it's a Silvia, I think the S13, that's kind of his car. It originally wasn't, and I'll kind of touch on that in a minute, but it does show that the sort of, you know, Okinawa life in the mid-90s with street drifting and stuff really kind of paved the way for his sort of taste in cars. Now let's get on to the Civic. So they return to the United States and Jesse's in need of a car for high school, and well, being sensible and being in that generation where you could actually get your hands on an EG Civic, that's exactly where this car started off as Jesse's daily driver around high school. Now, eventually this car was just absolutely offloaded to his dad, and then I'm assuming he went on to basically go and build the S13 or the Sylvia that he does drive today. So his father Philip ended up with the RCR Garage Civic. Obviously it started life as a daily, and well, at first it kind of started life as that bog standard EG. It quite quickly moved into the absolute weapon that you're seeing today. Moving through into the kind of time attack and race styled form, that's exactly the way Philip was going with this EG Civic. So the car's gone through many iterations. It's gone from being a daily driver for some high school kid that just wanted something to just get him by, to being offloaded to his dad, and his dad seeing potential in this thing and just turning it into an absolute stripped out time attack monster. And it clearly shows. I mean, just looking at this thing, it is just an absolute track weapon. Yes, it's still FF, but you know, it gives it a ton of charm. There is plenty of time attack Civics out there, and to be honest, they're just always absolutely awesome to see. The fact that it's FF really doesn't take away from anything. This thing is just absolutely insane. Now, I believe it does run a K24 engine, running something like 11 bars of boost, something absolutely ridiculous, and we know it's no slouch in the horsepower, meaning that these absolutely crazy wide bodies, front splitters and big rear wing are all absolutely functional. This is a stripped out time attack monster. So once again, before we get into how the car is within GT7, I do want to give a massive thank you to both Jesse and Philip for providing information direct from the horse's mouth over at RCR Garage on this absolutely awesome car. It was great talking to you guys, it was great learning more about this car, and a massive thank you to them. So now let's talk about the car in the context of Gran Turismo 7 itself. So if you've never joined me for a car review, this is how it's going to work. The one you're seeing in the background now is going to do a hot lap of the Nordschleife with 0 upgrades. This car is in its bog standard form, so I cannot go ahead and add different tyres on, any performance upgrades. This is exactly how you buy it in the dealership with no setup on it. Then we will fully upgrade it once again without going into the fine-tuning setup, and take for a hot lap around the high speed ring to see how it fares in its fully upgraded form. Now let's talk about the standard version, because it's not exactly standard, is it? Obviously, as I've just explained, this is an absolute time attack animal, and well, it does show itself to be that within GT7. Now it's a bit of a shame because the tyres that they've put it on in terms of polyphony and how they put the car into the game is actually sports mediums. And whilst yes, this thing goes around the road and stuff, and obviously it'll have, you know, just road tyres on it, it's certainly not made to do that when it's in track form. It usually runs the slick tyres. So, you know, I thought this was a bit of an odd choice, the fact that they didn't put slicks on it, considering this is obviously a track racing game. But I guess that's the only thing that really lets it down. You know, once you've got those race tyres on there, the FF layout really doesn't become as bad. There is a ton of power in this thing. Now, obviously, it's going to drive like an FF car, but I just found it to be an absolute blast, to be honest. Whether you're running in VR, whether you're running in flat screen, wheel, controller, you can have a ton of fun with this car. It absolutely rips. And the sound of this thing, it's just got an awesome sound. Listen to this. Now, when it actually comes to tracking this little track weapon, it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. Yes, the FF layout might not suit everyone, so it definitely requires a very specific driving style to get it right, especially if you're going to be running it in that standard form where it gives you these sports mediums. Now, I would just recommend straight away just throw them off and put some slicks on it. Instantly the performance output from this thing is increased. Now obviously I couldn't do it for the Nordschleife, but after driving many miles in this thing already, I'd found that I was already getting used to the way to drive this. This thing absolutely rips. So let's have a look where the, I guess, standard quotation marks version actually ranks. So this thing falls in the 600 pp category. It runs on sports mediums, and it did a lap time of a 7 minutes 33.303, beating the likes of an F-Type Coupe R, a Nissan GTR 2017, a Dodge Viper SRT 10 Coupe, and obviously the likes of the Porsche 959s, as well as absolutely outpacing at the bottom there the GR Corolla. And this thing's FF. But obviously we're not done there. We now have to go to the high speed ring, and this is where it really doesn't do the car justice. It's not a very top speed heavy car. It's a full downforce time attack weapon. It's definitely more for the twisty and curvies, so we know that obviously it's not going to be as good here. But it does put out a reasonable amount of performance points, as well as having a ton of grip. You can essentially mess around with the gears of this thing and get it to up to around 200 miles per hour if you really want to, but I'm not allowed to go ahead and fine tune them. So the car is definitely at a disadvantage here. However, now I'm allowed to put upgrades on it. I can talk about what it's like once you get it into the form that it realistically should have been when it was put into GT7. It's just absolutely bonkers. Yes, it's a front wheel drive car, but once you put this thing on slicks and start ripping through the gears and absolutely using that, you know, brake and throttle correctly, it's an absolute track weapon. It's unbelievably fun to drive. Now I would recommend, look, if you're going to take this car around, do it justice. Take it around somewhere like Tsukuba, Suzuka, somewhere where it's not constantly top speed heavy. The high speed ring, this is where I do my modified lap time, so that's not going to change. It definitely put the Civic at a disadvantage, but once you get used to the way to drive this thing, it's an absolute blast. For me, this is the standout of the SEMA award winners, apart from maybe the likes of the GAC Maverick, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It's great to see that, honestly, the SEMA award winners kind of went out with a bang. Finally seeing the full-blown pandem body-kitted Civic EG in some shape or form in GT7 is absolutely awesome. Here's hoping, now that they have the pandem model, the RCR Garage model for it, that they can go ahead and put the standard version in as well, so we can make our own little time attack weapons. Now, in terms of the overall lap time for the modified lap time, it drops in P13. Obviously this isn't a high speed heavy build, so it does drop behind the likes of the GR Corolla here, as well as just beating the likes of the Giulia Sprint, the Plymouth XNR Gia, and then obviously the likes of the key cars as well. So really not doing it justice here, and you definitely want to be taking it on those tight and twisty tracks to get the most out of this absolutely brutal time attack build. So there we have it. That is the RCR Civic review, the first of the update 1.38 reviews, and my highlight of the update. I absolutely love the EG Civic. I've always wanted to get my hands on one. Sadly, they're just really difficult to get hold of a decent one in this day and age, especially in the UK. They're just near impossible to find without being absolutely rotten out. Big thank you to obviously Jesse and Philip for providing me information direct from the horse's mouth over at RCR Garage, and I wish you pair the best in the future for all of your upcoming builds and projects. And honestly, the car that you've created here, absolutely incredible to see. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe for more Gran Turismo 7 content. I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.